Will sourdough bread cause your blood sugar to spike and work against your weight loss goals? Especially in early 2020, everyone was obsessed with making homemade sourdough bread because like what else was there to do at that time? But is it actually something that will support your weight loss goals? Today we're diving into sourdough bread, its role in blood sugar, and whether or not it actually will help you achieve your weight loss goals. If you're new here, my name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition and human performance. On my channel, I share a lot of tips and strategies you can use to achieve your weight loss and wellness goals. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Now, the first thing to note with sourdough bread is that it is fermented, so it does have that perk where it's easier to break down and could be easier on the GI tract. Now, when we're looking at sourdough bread's impact on blood glucose levels, a useful tool can be the glycemic index. So sourdough bread tends to have a lower glycemic index score than just traditional breads. It'll have around a score of 54, which is like moderate to moderately low on the glycemic index scale, whereas traditional wheat flour has around a score of 71, making it moderate to moderately high. So theoretically, just looking at these two scores, you might look at sourdough bread and be like, oh, the blood glucose impact isn't that bad. It actually might support weight loss goals. But before you go start feeding your sourdough starter, there are two really important factors that we need to discuss. First, the glycemic index is tested on healthy individuals, meaning when they get this number, they're testing it on people who are considered healthy and likely don't have insulin resistance. Therefore, this rating might not really matter or even be useful to you if you do have some degree of insulin resistance or if you're carb sensitive. And you can have your doctor test your insulin levels to see if you are insulin resistant, but typically some telltale signs of some degree of insulin resistance will be if you have a history of PCOS, obviously if you're type 2 diabetic, if you're obese, or if you have difficulties losing weight. Now, I do have a free carb sensitivity quiz if you guys want to get an idea if you might be carb sensitive, and I'll have that link down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. Now, second, we only have about 4 grams of glucose within our entire blood supply. Yes, only 4 grams. That's 1 teaspoon. It's a really small amount. That's why it can be so easy to get a big blood glucose spike and fall, because anything above 4 grams will really significantly raise the blood glucose levels. 1 medium slice of sourdough bread will have about 32 grams of carbohydrates, and carbs ultimately all break down into sugar. This means that 1 slice of sourdough bread has about 8 times the amount of carbohydrates that are currently in your blood supply. Even a pretty small slice of sourdough bread is going to have about 16 grams of carbohydrates, which is about 4 times the amount that's in the blood supply. So yes, sourdough bread will raise blood sugar levels because really anything that contains carbohydrates that's more than 4 grams will raise blood glucose levels. And that's where insulin comes into play. Its job is to store all of that excess blood glucose, because just having that glucose floating around your blood is really dangerous for your arteries and for your cells. Now, how much sourdough bread will have an effect on your weight loss goals really depends on your carbohydrate sensitivity level and of course your insulin resistance. If you're more carb sensitive and more insulin resistant, you'll likely want to skip the sourdough bread and opt for something like jicama wraps or coconut wraps or making homemade flax bread. Whereas if you aren't very carb sensitive and you're also more insulin sensitive, then having the occasional slice of sourdough bread probably isn't going to be a problem. But if you do want to help temper that blood glucose response from the sourdough bread, one useful tool is using apple cider vinegar, which you can check out the details of how to use it with this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.